This is Velva Lee Harity, broadcasting from beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida. This show is called Let's Talk Life, and we're going to talk about a lot of life today. Life in its extreme, actually. And this is the second show of the first series of Life Afterwards Addictions. And I've been working really hard the past month, lining up some really interesting guests, introducing the concept of addiction. What is it? Why is it a disease? What makes it a disease? I'm going to be, as I did before, talking about some research. But the most important thing about this show today is I have a family. I have two members of a family here that are willing to talk anonymously about their experience of life with an addict. And having experienced that firsthand, I know how stressful life can be, and I know how helpless you can feel. I know how it brings out all the codependency and enabling in the world. I know what to do now and what not to do, but there were hard lessons learned. And so I thought I'd love to hear other people, and I know you would too, on what exactly is addiction? How does it play out in a family system? What does it feel like to be a parent, a sibling? How do you live? How do you live with something like that? You know, that darkness in your family system that you seem so helpless and unable to deal with. And that's very, very important for people to understand that. The other thing that I've got a little commitment today to have people understand, what is tough love? How do you intervene in an addicted family system? When I became a specialist, I intervened in lots of family systems, but it was a big, complicated process, which I will share with you at another show. But it does work, but it doesn't work if the family isn't on board. And I learned about talking to my two guests today. They both figured out what tough love was, and they both figured out how to do an effective intervention without a professional involved. They were driven by love and loyalty and commitment to their family member. A lot of people aren't. By the time that they're driven to such distraction, a lot of people resort to throwing the person out in anger, to physical punishment, to all kinds of. I had a client that was actually tied to her bed because that was the only way the parents could figure out to keep her from sneaking out. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy things. One of the things that I want to also emphasize for all of you out there that are involved in addiction family systems, and I'll tell you who you are right now. 10% of our country, 10% are hardcore addicts. And actually with the opioid epidemic, it's probably more like 15. Meanwhile, let's stay with the 10%. Let's be conservative. Each alcoholic or addict impacts 7 people in their life. Their immediate family, their partners, their co-workers, their boyfriends, their girlfriends, their work environment, everybody they come in contact with. And it turns out to be, in the final analysis, and this is all research, 70% of the people in this country are affected by addiction. 10% because of the active addict, 7% because they have to deal with the active addict one way or another. So if you're out there, I'm going to assume, and you're listening to this show, I'm going to assume you're one of those people in that 70%. So let's take the opportunity to do some education. So we're going to talk about tough love, what works, what doesn't work, how you can stop enabling. Enabling is probably the most destructive part of addiction, is helping the addict or the alcoholic or dependent person, help them continue to use. But it's extremely common because in desperation, we want to do whatever we can, and we believe the addict. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's also a fact. There are 3 character traits of an active addict. There are, just trust me on this. One is lying, one is stealing, and one is cheating. And if you're dealing with an active addict, you are dealing with somebody who lies, cheats, and steals to continue to use. But they get very good at it. So if you're the loving parent, the loving sibling, the loving partner, you buy it. You buy it. And then you get stung over and over and over again. It's heartbreaking what I've learned some people actually go through. We're going to talk a little bit about the Jelinek chart, and I'm going to make an offer at the end of the show. If you want a copy of the Jelinek chart, you need to email me at vlh.letstalklife@gmail.com. Now, before we start the interview, I want to be on record as thanking my sponsor, UPS, on 2nd and 2nd South, the fantastic UPS store with full services, mailboxes, shipping, all kinds of things. They have wonderful cards if you're ever looking for an interesting card. They're very, very customer conscious and customer friendly, and they will be there for you. I'm sure most of you have gone there. If you're in St. Pete, you can't help it. So thank you, UPS and 2nd and 2nd. Okay, we're going to take a break for a minute, and then we're going to start the interview. Okay, we're back. The first person I want to introduce in this fabulous show that I'm so excited to hear myself is the mom of an addicted woman and how she learned about the addiction and how she handled it over time. So let's talk to Mom. Hi, Mom.
Hello. Happy to be here to share the experience that I had as a mother of a daughter, my youngest daughter, who was in her addiction. I have 3 daughters. Love them all the same, and to see my youngest just kind of take a bad turn when it seemed to be just at the end of middle school. I found her experimenting with marijuana, alcohol, sex. She was just off the chain.
Let me ask you a quick question for my listeners' benefit. What was the first sign? I mean, what did you catch her in the act, or what happened?
She was going out the window, sneaking out her window. I would find paraphernalia in the room, not going to class.
Okay.
And just being with a bad crowd, and just her whole demeanor changed.
Talk about that. How did it change?
She was very moody. Things were missing from the house. It started with the stealing. And it was just devastating to see, because when you love someone and you see them taking that turn, how do you stop it?
Okay, Mom. For the benefit of my listeners, talk more about the demeanor. She got moody.
Yes.
Did she become aggressive? Was she become like snotty to you and stuff like that?
She was not happy with herself. She thought she was a beautiful young girl, but she just did not have any self-confidence.
Was she angry?
She was angry.
Defiant?
Yes, defiant. Always just not keeping her room nice, just throwing things about. Her sisters were a little on the neater side and would keep their things nice, and she'd like break into their closet and take their things, and it was just an ongoing destructive path.
Can you think back now? I know it's hard. Mm-hmm. I do know this is hard, but think of the very first time you had sort of, hey, what's going on here? What's going on here? Question in your head before you caught her doing everything. Was there any shift in the family energy or any shift in her?
Yeah, she was just like not wanting to be a part of and take part in. We always did things together.
Withdrawn. She was withdrawn.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's very helpful for people to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, go on.
And it was hard to see that happen because in the family, you know, we came from such a strong, loving, caring family, and we always would do have all the children at my house. I would have all the kids come to the house, and everyone loved coming, being with my husband and I. I mean, we were just happy to have them there. We'd barbecue, and we had a little boat. We'd take them out on the boat, and she never really wanted to take part in. She was always just disappearing, taking off.
Okay. That's a good first indicator.
Yes.
A lot of times, if the child's younger, they just withdraw to their room,
Mm-hmm.
or they withdraw and they're suddenly not part of the family conversation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's more than just rebellion. I've dealt with a lot of people say, "Oh, they're just rebelling." It's different than rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
They're not engaged. They're not there anymore.
Yes.
Did you notice that?
I did, and then she started to cut. She started to cut her wrist and just do harming herself.
That's scary.
It is. It is scary.
What happened then?
I did take her to a psychologist at the time, and we tried to get some treatment, but she wasn't happy with it and never really went anywhere with it.
Yeah. How old was she when she started cutting?
She was 14.
Okay, that's a tough age.
Yeah, 14. And she was just a sadness and a not happy with herself, and I couldn't figure out why. Just, as I think back, we didn't really have the knowledge about, was she bipolar, or did she have a chemical imbalance? We were trying to figure all that out, and nothing really came to pass.
How many hours do you think you spent among all the family members trying to figure her out?
A lifetime. Lifetime.
It really dominates the family, doesn't it?
It does. And as it got aggressive, I would go out and look for her as she got older. And she was into heavy drugs. I would sneak out of the house at night to search for her, to try to bring her home. And I knew where all the drug dealers were, and they would tell me, "Mama, go home because you're going to bring the police here." And I'd say, "Stop selling drugs to my girl. She needs to come home."
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm impressed. A lot of parents.
I knocked down doors. I knocked on doors. Yeah. I went into apartments, and they didn't want her there. They didn't want her there anymore because it was.
Because Mom was soon to follow.
Yeah.
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 I don't mean to joke, but I mean,
no, it's true. It's true.
There's a black humor in that too.
I know, and they would just. At one point, as she got older, she had a daughter, and I think it got worse. Kind of, she had a clean period there for a while. She got married, and she had a daughter, and then after about several months, she really took a turn for the worse. She disappeared. She walked out on a husband and the child, and was gone for a few years. And so I helped raise the granddaughter. And as the granddaughter got older, she would ask me, "Grandma, where's my mom?" She was about 5 at the time. And I said, "Well, your mom is sick. She's not well." I said, "It has nothing to do with love. She loves you, but she's taken some things that have made her make some bad decisions as far as not being able to be here." And so she says, "Well, can I write her a letter?" And I said, "Of course, write her a letter." So
she's heartbreaking.
She writes the letter, and she says, "Mommy, I love you." And she drew hearts, and she said, "Please come home. Grandma said you're sick, and we can get you medicine," and so forth. It was just heart-wrenching. So I took this letter, and I went to Kinko's, and I blew it up, and I took a picture of my granddaughter. It was Halloween, in this little angel outfit. And I put the angel with the note and I made 100 copies. And I went down to the hood, and I posted it all on every post where they were selling crack. I went into the grocery stores where they were buying cigarettes, and I knew they were selling drugs.
You got chutzpah, Mama.
And I asked the owner, I said, can I put this in your window? And he said, of course. And it was all over town. I get a phone call.
What town are we in? Where are we in?
Clearwater. Clearwater, Florida. I get a phone call from my daughter. What are you trying to do? She says to me. And I said,
see, that's funny. You know, this is the humor in the darkest moments. You know, it's like the cops have this kind of humor. Addicts have it too.
Oh, yeah. What are you trying to do? I said, you need to come home. You need to come home, and we need to get you help. And so, you know, that just went on. And then there was a period where she did come home for 6 years. She was clean for 6 years. And then the sinkhole opened up again. She just went down into it and was gone for another 5 years. And during that time, I raised my granddaughter, and she lives with me to this day. My concern now really, is for my granddaughter, because she's an old soul. She's been through it all, and her heart is just heavy with all this. She forgives her mom, but she doesn't trust her. Mom is in recovery right now for 2 years. She's doing well. But my granddaughter is frightened that she says, Grandma, what happens when she gets out of this court-appointed program? Once she's doesn't have to report to probation or use to drop her urine for testing, will she turn around again? And I said, it's in God's hands, but at this point, your mom has been through so much, and she's getting older, and she knows that if she goes back to this, she won't survive it.
She won't.
She won't survive it.
How old is she now?
She's 43.
And the daughter is how old?
19. She won't survive it because now when an addict is clean for a while and they fall and they go back into the drug, they can't go back to where they left off. They were using heavy. So they wind up overdosing. And especially today with fentanyl on the scene, the drugs are so heavy that they don't stand a chance.
I understand that. You know, when I was really young, pot was just an awful drug. And, you know, it had the same
Effect.
Energy around it as opiates today. You were dead if you smoked pot. But everybody I know that knows anything about weed, that today's pot is so much stronger.
Yeah.
That the pot in my day, my day when I was a teenager, was nothing. It was nothing.
Yeah, I guess because everything was organically really grown.
Yeah.
Now they're messing with everything with chemicals.
Well, it's not that the addict can't, you know. If everybody just smoked the old-fashioned pot, I don't know, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Because I know too many people who started addictions with pot. So I don't know what to say about it. At the point I'm trying to make is everything is so much stronger. I don't know
if it's alcohol or the pot or whatever it is that starts it. I think it's just they're lacking something in the brain that doesn't connect properly, that they can't do anything in moderation.
So that's true, and that's true. But there's a book. It is a good point to recommend this book for everyone. It's called Under the Influence. It's a paperback. The author is Milam, M-I-L-A-M, and Ketchum, K-E-T-C-H-U-M. And it's about the disease of alcoholism. The whole book it's very reader-friendly, by the way, but it tells you why alcoholism is a disease and not a character disorder. Having said that, certain people are more vulnerable to becoming alcohol or addicts or any kind of dependency because there's a vulnerability. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm shocked that this isn't headlines all the time. 3 years ago, I read an article about the effect of trauma on DNA. Now, I was raised, and most of us are raised to believe, all people are, you're born with a clean slate,
Mm-hmm.
All babies they get the same start in life. Well, this particular research on DNA and trauma proved that that's not true. Here's what it means. It means if your parents, let's say, were Holocaust survivors or survivors of Katrina or some natural disaster or some other kind of disaster, chronic child abuse, their DNA, their genetic makeup actually changes. What does that mean? Well, obviously it means that the child is passing on something. So the parent who has this in their DNA that has a child, the child, he or her, they're more vulnerable because they've got that inclination in their genetic makeup. They have it. It's there. It's been proven over and over again now in this research. What does that mean? Well, if you can take trauma, you can take a lot of other things and assume that DNA and the genetic makeup is shifting and altering over a person's lifetime. Everybody thought you just had it and it was the same all your life and you died with it, and that's not true. They proved that's not true, So everybody's at risk that has had any kind of childhood trauma. I worked with somebody whose mom was hospitalized on and off with a serious illness. In her experience of her mother, she's been abandoned. It doesn't matter that she wasn't abandoned. It's how she experienced it. So that put a shift in her genetic code. So there's all kinds of consequences for these kinds of things that we're just learning now. So if your child, look back at your family history. If you have something called the generational jump, if everybody in your family system is alcoholic and then there's a one or two people that won't touch the stuff, if they come in to see you, if they talk to you and say, I never drink, well, you know that that's a reaction formation, that it's because they are from a heavily alcoholic system. So you have to pay attention to things that you wouldn't ordinarily pay attention to. So I just wanted to interject about the disease concept, the book, Under the Influence of Milam and Ketchum. And I think everybody should have it on their shelf because 70% of you are going to need it. Trust me, you're going to be involved with people that are using, and you're going to go crazy trying to figure them out. And the next thing you know, they've got you convinced that you're crazy.
It's true.
That's another paradox, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
My ex-husband kept telling me I'm crazy. I started to wonder. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I started to feel crazy. But that's the manipulation of the addict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
Go ahead. I just wanted to get that book in there.
Okay, let's see. Where were we?
You were talking about the daughter worried about her mom
yes,
not surviving or not.
She's happy for her recovery, but she's standoffish because she just can't be let down again.
She can't be abandoned again.
Right. She can't be abandoned again, and it's been a long haul, her whole life. So she just doesn't want to be involved. Like she's going to be 20 in May, and when her friends go to parties and stuff, they all ask her to be the designated driver because, like you just said, she doesn't want anything to do with, because she's seen it all her life and what it causes, what it does. It just destroyed her. But she's doing okay now, and the reason that my daughter is in recovery right now is because I got to be with the tough love. I was always an enabler, paying the rent, the car insurance, the light bill. I didn't want her to be. I said, where will she go if she gets put out of her apartment? And where will her daughter go? So I wound up paying all the bills with all the promises that things were going to change and so forth. And that was just part of the lying, the stealing, the manipulation. And like you said, they are really good at it. So it came down to the point when she stole a family necklace that was given to me by my mom. That was very important to me. And I think it was really a cry for help, because at that point she was at her very lowest. I saw her walking on the street in Clearwater as I was driving to work. And if you're all familiar with that movie, The Walking Dead, that's what my daughter looked like. She was just a figment of my imagination. I mean, she was like a skeleton, down to nothing, maybe 90 pounds. When basically she should have been at least 130 pounds. And I pulled the car over and I just said, "What are you doing?" She says, I know. I need some money. And so I gave her money. I knew what she was going to do with the money, but she needed it at that point to get herself what she needed. And after that happened, she came to the house when I was working, and she stole the necklace. So I called the house where I knew she was staying, and I said to the girl that was there, I said, "You need to tell her I want that necklace back within the hour. If I do not get it, I'm going straight to the police department." Didn't happen. I went to the police. I brought them to the house where she was. They waited around. They picked her up. They called me. They said, "Okay, we have her now. Do you want to press charges?" Meanwhile, her friend's on the phone to me saying, "Oh, they have her outside. They're going to arrest her." She's saying, "Please don't press charges." And I said, put the policeman on the phone, and I said, "Please take her to jail." They took her to jail, and the charges were pretty heavy, because in this state, it's like 3 strikes and you're out. So she was looking at prison time. For coming into the house was breaking and entering, and taking the necklace was robbery. So the charges were pretty heavy. So she's in jail, and I get a call from the district attorney and wanted me to come down and sign all the paperwork. So I went there, and he said, "Okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to press charges." And I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Is there something you can do? Because here in Florida, there's what we have is called drug court. If you're arrested and you're a drug addict, you can hopefully get into this program if you want it. You have to want it." So he said to me, "No, she wasn't arrested for drugs." I said, "Yeah, I know that, but if you have any kind of inkling of her condition, she's a drug addict, and that's why she came into the house to get the necklace. She needed to get her drugs." I said, my point here is to have her get some help if she wants it. This is an opportunity for her. And he said to me, the district attorney said, "Well, these are not the proper charges. She wasn't picked up for drugs." I said, "Well, if there's anything you can do at all to direct it in that way, you would be saving a life." Well, next week I find out, she calls me, she said, you hoodwinked me. She said, "How did I get in drug court?"
Thank you, God.
And I said, You got where? I'm in drug court. And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "I went to the district attorney and I told him you were a drug addict, and the reason you were acting the way you were is because you needed drugs. And if he had any kind of inkling about that, maybe he could direct you in the right way." And I guess he did. So
this is an amazing story.
So thank God for that. And she was willing at that point. She knew that she was at the end. They call it their bottom. They have to be at their bottom. And I can really see that, because after so many years, she really wasn't at her bottom. And I do believe she arrived there. She had the opportunity now to get the help that she needed. And she took it. She spent about a year in county jail here in Pinellas County. And she didn't count that time. She says, "Mom," and then she went into a program. And I said, well, you're going to be almost 2 years clean. She said, don't count that 1 year behind bars because the door was closed. Now that the door is open, I'm clean for 1 year. Because when the door was closed, I couldn't get any drugs. I was just incarcerated.
I'm surprised she couldn't get drugs in jail.
Well,
Whatever.
That's what she said.
Whatever.
Yeah, maybe she could, but, you know.
However she wants to count it, it's her choice, you know.
So she's made a remarkable, she has a good sense of humor. She's trying to mend bridges with her daughter. She told her how sorry she was that she was not there for her life, but that was happy that she was with the family that she knew, you know, would take care of her.
Is she working the 12 steps?
Yes.
Narcotics Anonymous?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And she was able to get counseling, and actually the counselor said she has post-traumatic stress, and I can see why, you know.
Yeah, I can see why too.
Yeah, she said this counselor is wonderful. She said, I deal with a lot of veterans, and your level is just about there. These men come, you know. So I mean, she's been there and done it all. I mean, there's a chapter 2 that I haven't even put in there. She, when she was out there that second time, she got pregnant. She was pregnant, and she called me, and I put her up in a little motel and would put food in the refrigerator and so forth, and thinking that this would maybe help her to get well. And then when I went back, she was gone. So she was pregnant on the streets as an addict. And I get a call a few months later. I had no idea that an addict could carry a child full term, because I have girlfriends that are trying to have children that go through all kinds of medical, you know, help and care, and they miscarry. So there was no way, I thought to myself, this child is not going to be born. I get a call from the hospital saying that my daughter is here. No, my daughter is here, and she just gave birth. So I have another grandchild. I have another grandchild.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. So I go to the hospital, and I have my new baby. Of course, the state comes in, and they want to take her because of the situation. And I said, no, I will take the baby home. This is my grandchild. So I go home with a new baby, and my husband, he's, bless his heart, he says, whose baby is this? I said, honey, we have a baby. And he said, whose baby? Who had a baby? And I told him his youngest daughter. And he said, oh, Lord. He said, okay, I guess we got a new baby. He was just so open and so loving. And he was always, first of all, he was my best friend for 53 years. And
are you a widow girl?
Yes, just recently. And he opened his heart, and he took care. I mean, we were like a tag team. We had this baby for a year, and his nephew didn't have any children. And he called me, and he said, Aunt Michelle, he said, I spoke to my wife, and we want to adopt her, legally adopt her into the family. And so it was like a Cinderella story, because my nephew adopted my daughter's child. And she's in the family, and she's well, and she has a beautiful home, and she's loved by everyone. As a matter of fact, when she comes to visit us, she's like a celebrity. The whole family shows up. She's a little celebrity.
Yeah, yeah.
And so out of all this misery came this beautiful child.
Well, there's a lot of silver linings in your story.
Yes.
There's a lot of silver linings.
Truly.
And actually, we could talk for another hour.
Mm-hmm.
We can't. But I'd love to have a show. It's in my agenda somewhere down the road, where people start recognizing silver linings when they see them. And at times you can only see the darkest,
Yeah.
And then with hindsight, you can see
Yes.
the silver linings.
Yes, the first silver lining was when the state attorney was able to direct her in the right way.
Well, that's a
And
gift.
That was
That's
a gift. It was a blessing. It was meant to be. And there's she has a wonderful way about her. She's charming.
Who are you talking about now?
My daughter.
Okay.
My daughter. When she's not in her addiction, she's loving, funny. She could be a stand-up comic. She actually goes into about everything that she's done, and it comes out with humor.
Okay, well, I'm going to put this on the air right now. It's already planned on the road to interview the recovering addict from this family that has amazing powers. I'm sort of blown away by this story because of who you are.
She has a purpose.
Well,
she
no,
does.
I'm talking about you now.
There was no way I was thrown in the cattle.
But
no
listen,
way.
I understand all that, but you have no idea how many people would never, ever do what you did. Never. Never. I know this for an absolute fact. So I think you have to be very, very... I'm just impressed all to hell. And I want to say that. I mean it. I'm impressed all to hell.
Thank you.
I'm very sorry, too, that you lost your partner. Mm-hmm. I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break now.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for this interview. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your candor. It's just like, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God. Okay. Okay, Mom. Okay. All right, we're going to take a break. Let me get my system up here. Okay, we're back. I don't know about you, but I needed a breather. This was just an amazing story. I'm so happy to be able to share it with all of you because it's meaningful. It's incredibly meaningful. Now we have the sister, the daughter of Mama, the firstborn, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
The sister of the youngest sibling who've gotten all this trick bags. And from her point of view, she's going to share, and I asked her to start with, what's the first thing you noticed? So pay attention. You heard the first part of the narrative. We're going to get the second part. And by the way, if you have any questions, you can email me at VLHarity. No, I'm sorry, that's VLH. Let's Talk Life at gmail.com. Anything about addictions, just shoot me an email. I promise to get back to you. Okay, are you ready, sister?
I am.
This is Big Sister, okay? Here you go.
Hello. Thank you for having me on. Well, to pick up in the beginning of where Mom left off, I remember exactly the day that I had a question of what was happening with my youngest sister. We were actually playing in the house, and we were having a ball. We were laughing and just having a good old time, just being silly sisters like we were and still are. And my mom came home, and she had groceries in the car. So she came in, and she yelled for us to come and help. And so I'm like, sure. So I go to walk out the door, and I turn around, and I look at my sister, and she's very, very angry and mad. And I said, what's wrong with you? And she's like, all of a sudden, I had no idea who was standing in front of me. She was yelling and hollering, I'm not going out there. I'm not bringing in groceries. You guys can do it yourself. Just leave me alone. And I'm like,
how old was she at this time?
Who's that? She must have been probably 12.
Okay, go ahead.
Does that sound? She was probably around 12. And so I just stood there and stared at her, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening. And I walked outside, and Mom's like, well, where are you guys? And I said, Ma, well, I'm here, but I don't understand what's on with that one. And she's like, what's wrong? And I said, I have no idea. We were running around and having fun and just being silly, and you asked for help, and she just started screaming and yelling and went in her room and slammed the door.
Okay, that's a good story. That's a good story because it's a good. It's a what I call an archetypal story. The mood shift, the sudden drama, going and slamming the door for no reason.
No reason, yeah.
So good. Go ahead.
Well, I remember helping Mom, and we brought the groceries in, and then I went in the room, and I asked her what was wrong, and she just sat there and just stared at me. So I went back out, and I said to my mother, I said, Mom, I said, I don't know what's wrong with her. I said, and she asked me, well, what happened? And I said, nothing. We were having a ball and having
Were
fun,
you scared?
and I repeated it. I don't remember being scared. I just remember being very confused.
Okay.
Like I just didn't understand what had happened. And so then just days went on, and she seemed to be really moody after that. Because I think what happened is I just took notice to see what was happening, and she just didn't
sort of like a wake-up call?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Well, that was that, and then we had, I guess it was about years later. I mean, there were, of course, me being the oldest, I was always coming and going and out with my friends and stuff, and I do remember her a lot of times just being moody and wanting to be with me and the other sister, and she couldn't be with us because she was younger, and just being angry about that. And I would, of course, at the time, not understanding what was happening, not realizing that she was probably doing things she shouldn't have been doing. I kind of felt guilty about not realizing what was happening as I got older. But, and then she was okay for a little bit, and then she had gotten, we picked up with the marriage, right? She had gotten married.
Well, let's go back to school for a minute. Were you all in the same school?
No, by the time she got into the schools, I was always out.
Okay, so what's the age difference between you?
We're eight years.
Okay. By the way, just for the record, where is the other sister?
She was always into her sports and running and doing her thing. She was the scholar.
Okay.
She was always in school doing things, or she was running track and involved in the school that way. So she was always doing her things. She was around a lot, but it was mainly me and the younger one.
So is it fair to say, because there's archetypes in dysfunctional family systems, that she became the hero?
Who?
The sister who was the high achiever.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, not a hero.
Well, I mean, I don't mean a hero like you think. I mean, she was the one that carried the banner of success for the family. She was the high achiever.
Oh, yes, I would say that.
The high achiever, because when things start going wrong, usually 99% of the time, everybody takes a family role. And there's 5 roles. The scapegoat, right? The hero, the high achiever, the rebel, and it sounds like your sister chose the role where she could detach, still part of the family, but she carries the banner now, the intellectual, the high achiever, and she sort of removes herself from psychologically from what's really going on.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that fair?
I would say
okay.
yes.
All right, so so she's not really in the picture. She's there, but she's not there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, because 8 years is a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's not there, I imagine that it was very difficult for you to deal with the sister 8 years younger.
Not really. We were always really good friends.
Okay.
She was like my doll. I used to do her hair all the time, and I'm into more of the, the glamour, the dolls, the playing, and makeup and hair and dressing, and she would just be right behind me, always wanting me to, well, do my hair, do my hair, do my hair, and I'm like, okay. So we would do her hair, and we would hang out and play, and she was funny. She was always funny, and so we bounced off of each other a lot that way.
Okay, but that changed when you're out of school and she's only 12.
Yes.
That's a huge difference when you're already out of school.
Yes.
Okay. So what did you notice then? You're sort of out of the system too. You're in it, but you're out of it. You're entering your own phase of life, young adulthood. Do
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes. But to what Mom was saying about when she was going out on the streets and stuff, and she would see her, I would do the same thing, to go out and try to find, no matter what I was doing, if I would call and talk to Mom or Dad, and we would talk about something, and I would say, have you heard from Nick? Have you heard from her? And they would say, no, or I did, or Mom would be like, haven't heard from her in a few days or a week.
She always stayed in the area. She never
went far. And so I always went, and I thought, okay, I don't want Mom going out there looking, so I would go out and look. We've always had a connection.
Did you sort of tag team?
No, I never let her know that I went out there, because I know she wouldn't let me. She'd be angry with me, or I was trying to protect her by not letting her go out. And I had written the thing that I sent for you about the time I did find her.
Talk about that.
Well, I do remember specifically going out one night to find her. It was close to Christmas.
What year? Well, how long ago was this?
That was in the first before the first recovery.
Yeah, before the first one.
How old were you then?
20, no.
Well, that's okay.
I honestly can't remember.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I honestly can't remember. No, I was married. So it had to be sometime 93.
Okay, so we're talking maybe like 15 years ago?
Maybe like in 93.
Yes.
Okay.
In 93. Well, I went out and I had a little Christmas tree. And I knew she probably didn't have a place to really go and keep it, but I wanted her to have one. So I drove around with this little Christmas tree with some little balls and tinsel. And I couldn't find her. So I got upset and I thought, well, I'm just going to go home now. So I went to go straight, and I just happened to look off, and I saw this person and the walk, and I knew it was her. So I turned down the street, and I pulled over, and I rolled down the window, and this person had looked over, and when they realized it was me, they turned away. So I rolled down the window, and I said, will you please get in the car? And she shook her head no, and I said, please get in the car. I said, I have something for you. It's Christmas time, and, come on. And she just mumbled. She's like, do you have any food? And I said, no, I don't have food. I said, but I'll take you for a bite to eat. I said, come, please get in the car. So very reluctantly, she got in the car, still with this big hoodie on her head. And I asked her, I said, please look at me. And she wouldn't look at me, and I begged her, and I said, please just look at me. So I went to go put my hand and put the hoodie down, and she slapped my hand away, and then she looked at me, and I realized somebody had beaten her up. Her face was all bruised, and her eye was all cut and swollen. And I said, can I please take you to the hospital? And she begged me, she's like, no. She says, please just tell Mom and Dad, I'm sorry, and just let me go. Well, I had to let her go because I would always tell Mom that she was enabling and we were all enabling, and we were just at that point in time learning about enabling, and which never really realized it was a thing. So she just begged me to let her go, and I let her go. And I called Mom, and I told her, I said...
It sounds like that must have been incredibly difficult.
Oh, you have no idea.
I do, actually.
I called Mom, and I said, I found her. I said, and I told her what I saw. And I said, I tried to take her to the hospital, but she wouldn't go. And Mom said, you just had to let her go. And I said, I did. And Mom was okay with it. She wasn't mad at me. Why'd you do it? Because I think at that point we were learning we can't fix it. The only person who can fix it is the addict. So that was that. And then I don't remember seeing or hearing from her for a few weeks after that.
After that night, you still had the tree.
Oh, yeah, I had the tree.
Tell me about going home that night. What was it like for you?
Actually, I didn't go home. In my neighborhood lived some friends of ours, and one of the friends was a police officer in St. Pete. And I knocked on his door, and he came to the door, and him and his wife let me in, and I just sat there and just cried my eyes out. And he yelled at me for for driving around looking for her, trying to warn me how dangerous it was. And I said, but you don't understand. I said, I have to find her. I have to make things better. I have to bring her home. My parents miss her. Her daughter misses her. I'm sorry, I'm the weak one. She's not as weak as me.
It's not weak to listen.
I know.
It's not weak to show feelings, okay?
I'm trying not to.
Well, don't try not to. I have tons of Kleenex here.
Oh, I thought that's what this was for. So he said to me, he said, you know what? You're right. He goes, you want to find her, you want to fix her, you want to bring her home for the parents, for your mom and dad and the child and everybody. He said, and you can do that. He goes, just go get her and bring her home. But then what's going to happen? And I said, she'll run off again. And he goes, exactly. He goes, are you going to put yourself and your family in jail? Because I have kids. Are you going to put your family and, your parents and everybody in jeopardy to try to bring one lost lamb home who doesn't want to come home yet? And I said, no. I said, I can't put everybody else in jeopardy. I said, just, and you're right, she doesn't want to come home. So I think after that is when I really kind of pulled myself up by the bootstraps and thought, this has got to be tough love. I have to learn to not go and not do and not try to bring her home and make things better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's what I did. My other sister, she had done the same. But Mom, the lion, never gave up. I mean, I didn't give up, but I didn't go looking after that. Because he was right, but you can't tell her that. She did look and tried everything for so long until she took that necklace, and then she was like, that's it.
Did you ever hear the biblical story of Rebecca?
Rebecca.
Did you happen to read Moby Dick?
No.
Okay.
I missed that class.
Well, I was an English major, so I read all of it. But in Moby Dick, there's a ship. Moby Dick is looking for the white whale.
Yes.
And they run across a ship. And the ship is named Rebecca. Mm-hmm. And that's named after the biblical mother who spent her life looking for her children. And the ship asks Moby Dick, Captain Ahab, help me find our lost, whatever they were, crew or whatever they were. And he refused because he was addicted to the white whale. But the ship named Rebecca everything in that book was symbolic, Mm-hmm. And So I remember after reading the book, I immediately got a hold of a Bible to read the story of Rebecca. So this story, your story, what you just shared with me, reminds me of your mom and Rebecca. Never giving up, never not looking. Listen, when I lost my daughter, I still looked for her. Now, I know she's dead. And if I saw anybody on the street that looked vaguely like her, I immediately thought it was her. Because there's that mom thing, I don't know what it is, that just keeps living, no matter what. No matter what. So I can appreciate that your mom didn't give up, but I can also understand why you did. Because you've got a life now, you've got a family. You're not the mom, you're the sister. You did everything you could, and you learned not to disable and not to enable. And that's the most important part of your experience.
But I did start enabling again, though.
We all relapse.
She would come clean for a few days, a few weeks, and Mom would call and she'd say, "Oh, she's doing really good. She's got this little apartment and she's doing really good. She needs this, she needs that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I got that." I went out and I had some towels. I had like a couple of bar stools. I had some really cute things, some clothes, some purses, and I'd pack stuff up and actually lie to my family, my husband and my children, about where I was going, because they
now
were
you know you're an enabler when you're lying.
Now I know I was an enabler. Yes. So I stopped the looking, and I think it's because I didn't want to be the enabler, like that way, to look for her and go there. I didn't want to bring
so you're sort of a
so I kind of
second level enabler.
Second level, yes. I'm definitely a second level. No, I'm not the primary. That would be my lion over there. But for years we did that. For years we'd be like, oh, everything's great, and then we'd go to the apartment and she'd be gone. And it's like, oh man. And so that happened a few times, and
that's so heartbreaking. But it was such a lesson that you needed to learn.
Yes.
Because enablers have to learn too.
Yes.
They do.
Yes.
They
but
do.
She is extremely hysterical. She's
Who is she now?
Wonderful. My sister.
Okay. So now she's clean, sober, and hysterical. And funny, I mean.
She's very funny.
Be careful.
She's
just be
very
careful.
happy.
Don't. Just be careful right now, ladies.
So,
because you've got to have hope springs eternal, but you have to be hopeful with a sort of a...
It is. It's hard because you do, like my niece. I had a heart-to-heart with her not too long ago. She was very upset about something, and I said, "Please just talk to me." I said, "Tell me." I said, "I'm here for you, to listen to you." "Well, I don't, and she told me, she said, I'm afraid I've gone this long without her, and every time years ago when I'd let her back in, I would get really happy and excited, and then and each time it would knock me down further and further and further." She's like, to where when you take something off and it goes down, 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 and then it gets so far down that there's no way to lift it back up again. So
you know what?
There's
she
no
shouldn't
lifting.
have to. Let me make a point here.
Right.
I think it's up to your sister to do all the heavy lifting now, and her daughter to remain as skeptical as she can for as long as she can, because she can only take so much. Okay? Right. And I think it's important that the heavy lifter at this point, if I can do a family intervention,
absolutely,
at this point has to be your sister, for all of you.
Yes.
All of you. And I encourage skepticism. I encourage the word no. I think no should be the first word out of your mouth. I'm sorry. I've done this for 25 years, and believe me, the heavy lifting because she'll have the program, she'll have a sponsor, she'll have counselors, she'll have support, she'll have all the resources she needs to be the heavy lifter if she uses them.
Yes.
I think at this point, I'm just encouraging you to
Stay back.
lay back, lay low, and let her do the heavy lifting, because she's got a lot to do before she's ready to be part of a relationship. She has a lot to do. She has a lot to do.
Right.
She missed all those years of growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what it's called? State-dependent learning. State-dependent learning means, and that this program came about for high school kids. They get up in the morning and they do a joint before they went to class. This was very common. There's a whole group of them that they smoke a joint before they go to class. All over the country, this is normal. Normal for this kind of a rebel or whomever. They would go to class, and because they had mood altered with the drug, they didn't learn what they never learned. So it's called state-dependent learning. So a lot of people who are doing drugs throughout school have to really get a new education. They have to re-educate themselves as if they'd never gone to high school. This is normal. So all the personal work that your sister has to do, I encourage all of you to leave her alone and let her do it.
Yes.
Let her do it without your help, because that's one of the prices she pays.
And
Am I sounding hard?
No, that's the way it should be.
And she knows that.
Let's hope so.
No, I know she does, because there's been several times where we would, I would say something, and she's like, no, she's like, I got to do this.
Good.
I have to do this on my own. I have to do this on my own. And I'm like, well, I want to help, but I'm glad you want to do it on your own. And so she does. I think she finally gets it.
Well, I want everybody to get it, because I have this crystal ball. Do you see it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's got a purple glow to it.
Ooh, it's pretty.
And my crystal ball says you're going to be tested. Everybody gets tested by the addict. Everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody in their world gets tested. So when my crystal ball says the phone is going to ring one day, or an email is going to come, and it's going to say, gee, I need your help, would you? What are you going to say? No. Toughest thing in the world. But that's what makes her grow. That's what helps her grow. Grow. Become a fully responsible, thriving woman that will do rather than take. Mm-hmm. Right? She's got a lot of doing to do. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
I know you're looking at me like, oh, this woman, why don't you shut up?
No, not at all. I do have, may I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
My concern is with my niece.
Your niece?
My niece.
How old is she?
She's 19. I feel bad because I know we as a family want her to be more accepting.
I don't think she should be.
Than she is.
I don't think she should be, honestly.
And she's hurt because people are getting upset with her because she's not as accepting as she should be.
Why she's upset.
Do you have advice for that?
I say honor her feelings instead of trying to change them.
Yeah.
Honor her feelings. I honor her. I understand completely. I would never try to. You can't force this on somebody. You can't make somebody trust somebody. You can't make somebody accept somebody that has been wounded this many times. Honor her feelings. Say, oh, I totally understand. When you're ready, let me know. And that's what she needs to do. She's smart. She's protecting herself. Mm-hmm. She's protecting herself. She's an adult. She's made an adult decision, and I would honor that truthfully. It's hard. And I think you want this for your sister.
I want my niece to be happy and safe.
I think you want everybody to be happy.
I do. I do.
Listen,
But I was hurt because of the way she was feeling that people were making her feel because they were upset that she wasn't as accepting. And I told
think
her it's
those
okay.
people-
I told her, I said, sweetheart, you have every right. You, out of everybody except Grandma and Grandpa, earn the right to be as hurt as you are. Me as the sister, I'm hurt and devastated, but you as her child and the mother and the father have every right for everything. I said, but you have your own feelings that you've earned since childhood. I said, so whatever you feel, don't let anybody make you feel bad about that. I said, it's okay. You've earned those feelings, and you have every right to tell the people, please accept my feelings towards this, and I will move in, and I will be okay. Just let me do it on my terms. Right?
Okay. Now, who are you talking about?
My niece.
The oldest one?
Stopped.
That's okay.
Oh.
The oldest one?
The 19-year-old.
Yes,
The
okay.
Addict's daughter.
Yes,
The addict's
okay.
daughter.
And the grandparents are? Okay. I got a little confused
I'm
there.
sorry.
That's okay, because I was thinking of the second daughter, too.
No, she's doing wonderful and
Okay.
living with her mom and dad through adoption.
She needs to be, her feelings need to be honored, period. Everybody's feelings need to be honored. Mm-hmm. I can understand why everybody wants everything to be, but this recovering woman needs all the space you can give her to rebuild her life without your help. Mm-hmm. I mean, frankly,
And we're doing that. Yeah, we're giving her space.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I just want to make that point on the air for others who are not giving space. And I'm just so totally thrilled that you were here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, I'm going to ask you first. Give me some thoughts before I ask Mom. How did you feel about today? How did you feel about the broadcast?
Well, if I heard it on the radio, what's it called? A
Podcast.
A podcast. I think I would be really interested in listening to something, to know that there are other people out there who are going through the same things that we were going through. I loved seeing my mom open up and be as raw as she was, a little rusty in the beginning, and then it just kept going.
Okay,
And
how did
her
you feel about
feelings.
being part of it?
I felt fine. It was I'm always pleased to share my story of my family and how proud I am that my sister is doing well now.
Well, I'm very honored that you came and you were candid and you showed up.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think it was easy, honestly.
No, it wasn't easy, but it's it's life. It's if I could say or do, or if I said one thing that would help anybody else, it's definitely worth me sitting here and talking about it.
What is the one thing that would help somebody else? What is the one piece of advice you could give others?
Don't give up, but don't be an enabler at the same time.
Good advice.
Because we never gave up.
Okay, I'm going to whip this around for Mom
Go
now.
to the Lions.
Okay, here we go. Coming your way, Mom.
Okay.
So tell me how you liked the show today.
Well, I think it was very it was good to kind of let everyone know that there is hope, and it being a struggle all the time, but then the silver lining pops up where you least expect it, and it's just it's a blessing. It's a blessing through all the heartache and the misery. You kind of find your way if you're looking. Like I never was ashamed of her. And I would talk to anyone who would listen just to try to get some advice or try to figure out what was going on. A lot of people want to hold it all back and be ashamed of, gosh, my daughter or my son is using and they're an addict and they're on the streets. No, I was always searching for an answer, and I would talk to anyone who would listen. And I think that helps. And I found myself in the NA meetings. That's where I learned that I needed help. I needed help to stop enabling, but to stand there and let her know that I loved her, but I wasn't going to get in her way anymore. They had a saying that, let the train hit the wall. And it's true. You have to let them go, and they have to hit that wall in order to come to their senses, so to speak. So,
Okay. If you had one piece of advice for the listening audience, what would it be?
Not to give up hope, and not to enable, because I was really a great enabler, and just let them kind of find their own growing space.
Okay, great. I'm going to end the show with something that I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a remarkable show. Remarkable. Truly remarkable. I'm very, very grateful for both of you. This afternoon, I went online and I was looking for Narcotics Anonymous. And I was looking for, and then I said, wait a minute. I'm looking for the wrong program. So I started looking for Families Anonymous. Families Anonymous saved my life and the lives of many, many of my friends back in the day. And I was shocked and disappointed to learn the closest Families Anonymous meeting is in Bradenton. There's none in St. Pete. There's none in Tampa. There's none in Clearwater. There's none in Largo. There's none in Venice. There's none. The closest, there's none in Sarasota. I thought, how can that be? How can a program so powerful and so effective and so necessary for so many parents of kids who are using not be in this part of in Pinellas County at all? So I'm going to throw this out there. I want you to think about it. I am seriously thinking of starting a chapter. And I think that hundreds of parents will show up once they know about it and how effective it can be.
There was one in Clearwater and Highland. That's where I went. The church right by...
Families Anonymous?
Families Anonymous. I don't know if it's still there. It's been a while. I'll have to look it up and see.
Okay, so let me just put this out there. If I decided to test the waters, would you guys help me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm thinking about it because my plate is very full, but I was so disappointed to learn there wasn't Families Anonymous. And I'm going to figure it out. I'll probably do research till the summer. I can't do something like this overnight. But I thought, we've got to bring help to the people that need it. If these opiate-using kids, if their parents had Families Anonymous, half of them would still be alive. I believe that. I really believe that. So I'm ending on that note. No, I'm ending on another note. I want to thank UPS for sponsoring this remarkable show. I encourage everybody to share it. Once you've listened to it, you're going to get links. Just share the links wherever you want to share them to people that need to hear this. And there's 70% of our country, so there's a lot of people. Please share it. And contact me if you want to share your story. I have a very interesting guest coming up. I have a lot of people that I'm going to tap. Some are in Chicago. The communities here are still busy celebrating beer and wine, so I don't know if they're a good resource immediately. But let the party go on. But anyway, thank you, Joe. Thank you, UPS, 2nd and 2nd South. Remarkable customer-oriented UPS store that you'll be very glad you did business with. Okay, the other thing I want to do, I have to do this because it's my favorite song, written by my favorite artist, and I have to find it now because you're going to have to listen again. Hang on a minute, everybody. Don't hang up. Don't go away. Don't tune me off. So, I have to do this. Here we go. I have to end with my theme
Let's talk
song.
about life. Let's have a little conversation. Let's talk about life. With love and information. Let's talk about life. And let's talk about love.
Okay, so goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, sister. Thank you once again for
Thank
making this
you.
a remarkable show.
Thank you for having us, Robin.
You're more than welcome. Very glad to do it. Signing off till next week.